Good morning, Algebra 1 students. So today we're going to be looking at how to identify the shape of a graph based on its mother function. All right. So today what we're doing is we have multiple different mother functions. So the first one that we're going to look at is a linear function. A linear function is in the form y equals mx plus b. And what is happening to the x here? We know that for here, the x has an exponent of 1. So this is the linear function. So the simplest way to identify a linear function is by graph is a straight line. All right, that's the simplest way. So the next one we're going to look at is a quadratic function. All right, a quadratic function looks like y is equals to x squared. So what is happening to the x here? The x is being squared, so the function or the graph of a quadratic function looks like a u. All right, so I'm just giving you easy ways of remembering this. Graph looks like a u. Next one we're going to look at is an exponential function. All right, what is happening here? This is in the form y equals to a times b raised to the x. What's happening to the x? The x is in the exponent, or the x is the exponent. So the graph here looks like a jumping j. All right, it looks like a jumping j, kind of like this. All right, the graph looks like a jumping j. All right, the next one that we're going to look at is a cubic function. And this is in the form y is equals to x cubed. What's happening to the x? As you can see here, x is cubed. It has an exponent of 3. What does this look like? This looks like an N shape. So it looks like an N shape. All right, it looks like an N shape, and it has 2 turning points. 1 turning point, 2 turning points. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at the others. So here, the 2 other ones which we have is a square root, which is in the form, square root is in the form y is equals to the square root of x. So what is happening to x here? All right, so that's the thing I'm going to ask myself. What's happening to x is under the radical. So what does this look like? It looks like a small r. All right, the graph of this looks like a small r. All right, it looks something like this, small r. All right, I'm just giving you like different ways to remember this. And the last one that we're going to look at is the absolute value. All right, the absolute value, and the absolute value pretty much is in the form y is equals to absolute value of x. And what does this graph look like? What's happening to the x? The x is an absolute value, is in the absolute value bracket, and here's my absolute value. So what does this graph look like? Oh, it looks like a V. It looks like the vision. There you go, the V. So let's look at an example of this. All right, so let's look at some examples of this. See if we're able to identify the different some examples here. So here on the first one, the question is I have x plus 3 raised to the 2. What's happening here? This graph is being squared. What type of function it is? It is a square root function. So here I'm going to write what? Square root. All right. And how do you know this? Because what? It is being squared. The x is being squared. And so here I'm going to say I know this because the x is being squared here. X is squared. All right. If we look at the second one, what's happening here? What type of function this is? This is a linear function. This is a linear function. And how do we know this? Because it's in the form y equals mx plus b, and I know this is, and the x also has a coefficient of 1 here. So because in form y equals mx plus b. All right, the next one, again, this one is pretty simple because what? It is an absolute value function. Absolute value. And how do I know this? Because x How do I know it's an absolute value? Because x is in the absolute value bracket. All right, and the last one, it says what type of function is this? And I know this is an exponential function. Exponential function. And why? Because x is the exponent. Because x is an exponent. All right, so that's how we know this. So the next thing that we're going to look at here, all right, next thing that we're going to look at here, well, I guess I should go ahead. So if there is not an IXL on this, but we're going to do an IXL on the next portion of the lesson. Okay, all right, thank you, bye-bye.